Hello, everyone. After a brief hiatus, we were not on the air last week. We are here coming to you live, Awesemo.com, Tuesday golf show. Myself, Ben Raza, Tim Frank, and we're breaking down Genesis Open. If there was a week for technical difficulties, it was last week. We didn't miss much. Did you watch the disaster that was the Pro-Am last week?
No, I couldn't bring myself to watch any of that. And Paul Casey with the lead, we all knew what was going to happen there.
Sad. He won the team
between
event.
the Pro-Am, between the delays with the weather, it was just that's not a good viewing tournament whatsoever. So, anytime it goes into Monday, I hate that. So I'm glad it's behind us. Yeah, it was a weird week. just to see DJ just kind of do nothing. He
almost got cut. He was almost
he had a birdie 18 on Saturday. I'm shocked that he played 18 and he was on in 2 and had like a 20-foot eagle putt. I'm like, he's just gonna 3-jack this just so he can go home. But
it was I didn't play, as I talked about on the Wednesday show. I did not play my full volume. There was too much going on, especially with the weather and the 3 courses. We saw some hail on Sunday. It had the whole works of things that you don't want. It was fitting that Phil won because I never would play him anyway. So let's just get it all out before, like I said, this is a good one, though. This field is stacked. DraftKings changed all the price points. We were talking a little before the show. So there's some new tournaments to try and tackle, but we'll deal with it. Do you? What do you think? I'm assuming you like this week, right?
Oh yeah, this is one of the best. I think it's one of the best regular season tour events of the year. Yeah, I mean, great course, great field. We got everybody. So yeah, I mean, I remember a couple years ago when it was like the last 4 groups were like Rory, JT, Hideki, DJ. I mean, it was just like Adam Scott. It was just like the Sunday was just amazing with 6 or 8 guys all within a couple shots of the lead. And yeah, this is one of the premier tournaments. So good course, good field.
It really
is. I'm glad we're done with Pebble. So that's
for a little while.
On that.
Yeah, before we jump into obviously we'll break down Riviera. What I remember from this tournament last year was I liked Bubba Watson. I know a lot of people did, and then he publicly stated that if the Celebrity All-Star game, if he didn't finish his Friday before that game, he was going to withdraw, and it moved me off him. And then in typical Bubba fashion, he just smoked everyone. That was up there for last year when I think about most tilting moments. Not having Bubba in that spot was really frustrating.
Yeah, but Bubba just figures out ways to tell people.
Celebrity All-Star game. Him and the Arcade Fire guy. That's what we need to worry about. Anyway, what's up, Chad? I know we got some friends in there. Any questions, you let us know. But we're going to jump right into it. Do you want to talk about Riviera? Pretty tough course for these guys, especially, they're used to 25 under these days perpetually.
Yeah, it is a tough course, and we're going to see some more weather this week. I don't know about the wind, but I think it's going to be cold, maybe rainy, could be some wind. So yeah, I don't think it's going to play very easy. But 7,300-yard par 71. Still, we got Poana greens out here in California. It's a tough course, tough driving course. It's a long course, but it's got narrow fairways. Hard to hit fairways, hard to hit greens. We've seen the winning score here. I mean, in 2015, it was -6. I mean, that's like major championship quality winning score. 2012 was -7, but we've seen it up around, -12, -15. So, I mean, depending on the conditions, depending on the weather, it plays anywhere from, moderately difficult to very difficult. So, we got the 3 par 5s. One of them's a glorified par 4, which is kind of strange. It's such a hard course, but it starts off with a 503-yard par 5 where literally the entire field is gonna have a 25-foot eagle putt or better.
Yeah, you better score on that hole. If you don't score on that hole, you're actually behind the 8 ball.
Oh yeah, if you make a par or a bogey, just log off on the first hole. But then it kind of gets much tougher from there. Just a general thing about this event, and it's something that after the Farmers I really thought about, is these really strong fields on tough courses. I mean, they bring out the better players. I mean, I think this is a week where Um, if you're going to punt with guys, you're going to take cheaper guys. I would focus a little bit more on kind of pedigree long-term form over kind of very short-term form, and we'll talk about some of the guys when we get down there. But I mean, you'll just see the leaderboard, like we saw at Torrey, where it was like, I mean, it was stacked, and even the guys, some of the cheaper guys that were up there, your Adam Scotts, your Hideki Matsuyamas, were really good players. You didn't see a lot of kind of the Keith Mitchells and Brandon Harkinses up there.
That
So
guy. That guy scores like no other. He
yeah,
makes
yeah,
like
we'll talk
multiple
about him when we
quads,
get down
but
there. He had quite an amazing tournament at Pebble.
no, it's true. I mean, I think about obviously WGCs, you get all 4 rounds, but those are ones where it's like most likely, there are some tournaments where, especially it's somewhat weaker field, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna actually omit, that top tier and be different. And something like this, you just give up so much win equity. Like it's hard to imagine. Obviously, we can jump right into it because I'm with you. I see the course pretty similar. You got to be somewhat aggressive. The rough isn't overly thick. You can get away with it. But you've got up top in terms of the 10K plus options. You got DJ, JT, Rory, Rahm, and Bryson just right there. That's a lot of firepower right off the bat.
Yeah, I struggle with weeks like this.
It's
I think
tough.
it's a lot easier for me when there is only like one or two options at the top, and you feel like you can kind of maybe split it down the middle and just almost cover your base at the top. Here, you're going to have to make a decision with somebody. I don't know. You want to give your Rory spiel now, or you want to wait
Sure,
until
let's get
later?
that out of the way. So it actually caters to that point. I'm with you because I build, I'd say more aggressive than most, and like a lot of weeks, I like to, especially up top, maybe jam someone. Here, it's just not prudent to do that. Like I would love to say I'm going to play 80-90% Rory. Uh, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. You just have too much opportunity cost. So I will say I do love the course for him. He's just gaining strokes off the tee at a disturbingly good rate, like the old Rory was. The rest of his game will be tested. Obviously, he needs to putt. Around the green's been good, but he's got to putt better. No problem with him. I think it's interesting. So JT, his irons, and I'll let you speak more about that, are just off the charts. Dustin, he tears this place apart. He loves the course. Those three, to me, the most interesting one, I know I've mentioned 3 of them already. Rahm is the guy I think who could get a little lost, and I'm most confused about. For me, it's probably Rory and then JT. I mean, like I said, I'll pass it to you with his irons right now are out of control. Like,
Yeah, it's like nothing that I've seen before. I think it was gained 25 strokes on approach over his last 3 events. So that's basically like 2 strokes around, which is, if
it's
you're
unheard of.
if you're gaining a stroke around, that's like leading the PGA Tour, or around there. So yeah, it's like, the irons have just been insane. It's kind of strange because the off the tee, and I mean, we're dealing with really small sample sizes here. We should definitely throw that out. But the off the tee, he's basically been like right around 0 strokes gain, which is for him not very good. So I don't know. There's like a couple ways to look at it. You look at like if he figures the driver out and the irons stay the same, he's going to run away with this. Or if he's struggling a little bit off the tee and the irons regress somewhat, like they almost have to do, it could be trouble. So yeah, it's tough. I don't know about JT. It's kind of weird. I look at his course history here. He's got a 9th and then 3 not very good finishes. I was looking at Torrey Pines, which isn't. I'm just thinking about the Poana angle. He doesn't have a really good record at Torrey. He's got 1 top 10, and I'm just kind of wondering if it seems like he struggles in California. I don't know if that's because of the Poa greens. He's a SEC guy. So that's maybe one thing that would keep me off of him. But yeah, the iron approach game is insane. I'm still preferential to DJ at the top. Only 300 more than JT. 8-1 odds as opposed to 12-1 for JT. And when you're dealing with odds that short, that's a pretty significant difference. You're looking at like, as Vegas would see, an 11% chance for DJ winning, and then about a 7.5% chance for JT. So pretty significant difference in win equity there on DJ. So I guess I would prefer him. And then I'd probably go down to Rahm and Bryson, both really good drivers of the ball.
Just not Rory.
Yeah, I wouldn't fault any of these guys, and I don't mean to be kind of wishy-washy, but they're all good plays.
That's the thing. Like, it's not, and this happens in majors especially. Everyone, obviously, I'm super excited for the Masters. We get to the Masters week, and it's like, in all honesty, the first 20 guys, you can play them without hesitation. It's very hard to decipher. These are all world-class players.
Yeah. I mean, I think as we get farther down, it's easier for me to make decisions. But from Bryson up, it's really hard. I like Bryson and Rahm because the current form is amazing, and they're both really good drivers of the ball, and they're a little bit cheaper. I'll probably skip over JT and Rory, and then I do like DJ all the way at the top. Course history is amazing. He didn't play good last week, but he was flying all the way back from Saudi Arabia. Strange weather conditions. I don't know.
I don't weigh that at all. Like, it's such an anomaly week.
Yeah.
I don't worry about that. It's like you said. I mean, these first 5 are good stuff. It's just funny. You go from them. The next range is just, for me, it's just a clown show. You've got Phil, Bubba, Tiger, and Xander. Like, and I mean, you could throw Decky. I really like Decky this week. I think a lot of people do. But my God, talk about guys that I have. I don't like to play any of them. I mean, on a macro level, I almost am under the field on Xander, Tiger, Phil, and Bubba every week. Do any of those guys pique your interest at all?
No, Phil never piques mine.
No,
I just never play Phil. I mean, I think I've said this a few weeks in a row. The Bubba, I'm not playing Bubba. I don't care. I mean, the course history, obviously 3 wins in the last 5 years. I think he's going to be really popular because people are going to see the course history. They're going to see the 3 wins. They're going to see him coming off of the 4th at, where was that? Waste Management.
In the desert.
And obviously that all lines up. And 9,700 isn't, it's expensive for Bubba where we've seen him in the last couple years, but for what you're getting as far as course history and current form, it's pretty decent price. But I'm not going to go there. Tiger doesn't seem like a bad play
It's
at
not that bad.
9,500.
The thing about Tiger, and I know you know this, is that like Tiger incurs his own ownership bump just because he's Tiger. Like it's less now because people are sharper. I may have more Tiger than I usually do, which is 0%. He's ahead of Phil. Bubba, you've kind of coined this, and I've stolen it in the sense of like you're paying for the course history. Like if Bubba was priced, in a different tier, maybe I'd look to him, but at the same time, you're already paying for those 3 wins in this price in this field. Like there are guys, we'll get down to it, in the 8K range that I think are just much better players than Bubba. You're not going to get an ownership discount. So I'm there, but I like Decky. Long irons, as chat pointed out, maybe a little more prevalent this week. It's not a wedge fest. I think he's playing pretty damn well. He just couldn't putt at Waste Management. He's another one. JT's on an unforeseen path, but Decky's irons are also heating up.
Yeah, I love Hideki. I think the price is really good. The putter is really, I think the putter, it's what's held him back the last couple weeks. And I think that's probably what's keeping his price a little bit down. If he was 15th at Waste Management, but I think if he was top 5 there, he'd be a little bit more expensive this week. But I mean, the approach game, he gained 6.7 at Waste Management, 5.4 at the Farmers, and that's only in 3 measured rounds. If you combine approach and off the tee, 9.4 at Waste Management, 6.2 at Farmers. So the ball striking has been amazing. And he's just kind of, he had about a year maybe where it was just a little bit, we didn't know what was going on with him, if he had injuries, a little inconsistent. But when we've seen him at the top of his game, it's the guy that won a WGC by 7 strokes and another WGC by 5 strokes. So when he's firing on all cylinders, he is an elite golfer. And I don't think the price is where it should be. So 9,300, 28 to 1. I think he's a really good bet there. So yeah, he's definitely one of my favorite plays on the board this week. Yeah,
I mean, I believe that was at Bridgestone where he was just, when Decky gets going, it's out of control. What I don't want to derail the show, but I did see you asking a Finau Decky Twitter. What were the results of that?
Oh, Hideki crushed him. It was like
Well, that's
66% to 33%. Yeah, that was my buddy Brandon. Daily Sports Geek was just tilting me, trying to convince me that Finau somehow had a better chance of winning this week. But he doesn't factor in that Finau's a choking dog, and
ooh, that's my line usually.
he could barely dispatch Steve Marino in the Puerto Rico Open, let alone beat this field. So.
Lay it on thick. I like that. Yeah, I mean, Tony's. I don't know. I don't know what to do with him these days. I do have a little interest just because the ownership has tapered way off from what we had seen because he's not playing well. Him and Spieth are in the same boat. Certainly not in form, but in the fact that I think people are slowly dissipating with Spieth with ownership. Finau is obviously not up to when he was like 40% for months on end at the end of last year. Real quick before we dump into the 8K range, you're not. I assume you're not going to Spieth, are you?
No, he's not. He's been bad, and
bailed.
He's been bailed out in 2 consecutive starts by playing a really easy course. The North Course at Torrey Pines, where he shot like 7 under, and then I think he started off on the Monterey Peninsula course.
He did,
which was the easiest course, and Thursday was the only good conditions they saw. If you take those 2 rounds out, he's been awful because he's finished 45th and 35th, and that's including 2 rounds at really easy courses that he really took advantage of. So it's terrible.
I tried to. I leveraged pretty hard on Spieth last week. I knew he was going to be somewhat popular, so I went way over. And yeah, he killed multiple seals on Pebble with just drives so far into the ocean. It was extreme. I mean, it's not there right now, so I'm cautious on Spieth this week. I like Finau if I had to choose. Having said that, I'll pass it right back to you for this 8K range, and I'll include Patrick Cantlay's flat 9K. He withdrew last week. I don't worry about that. A lot of guys did. Do you have any interest in Cantlay? And then who do you like from that top tier in the 8K?
Yeah, I like Cantlay a lot.
Okay.
Those guys just didn't want to play in that event in the weather with the amateurs. I mean, it was pretty obvious when you saw how many guys withdrew that they just had no interest in that event. So I don't really take anything out of the WD. He was, 4th here last year, California guy. I like him. I really like Paul Casey again. Should have won last week, but that's just what Paul Casey does. He chokes too. But yeah, I love Casey in like strong fields like this where he's 8,800. We don't have to worry about him choking. I mean, would it be great if he won? Sure, but at 8,800, we don't really need him to win. He had a playoff loss here, and then kind of some middling form after that. But I just like him. He's just a good golfer, very consistent, and actually, coming off a great week. So I think 8,800's a good price for him. I'd definitely be willing to go back there. After that, I think, Finau, Cantlay, Casey are probably the guys that I like in this tier. And then it'd probably be getting down to Sergio before we saw somebody else that I really like. Don't have any urge to go back to Adam Scott. Not sure what to make of that T2 at the Farmers. I don't know if it was he didn't back it up last week. I don't know if that was a fluke.
Yeah, he missed like a 1-footer to miss the cut. Yes. Typical Adam Scott. I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's Casey, obviously one of the safest values. He could make my cash lineup, especially if I go balanced. The guy that I think I don't know exactly what I want to do with, but Tommy Fleetwood to me is certainly interesting. He was pretty bad last week. He salvaged, kind of came back. I think it's a good spot for him, to be honest. It's kind of just a gut feel with him. He's been hit or miss. The price is a little lower than I thought it would be. So I don't know if that's going to bump up the ownership. I'm hoping the fact that his recent form isn't, jumping out at you will maybe temper ownership somewhat. But 8,600, I'd much rather go to him than Adam Scott or Kuchar, who got buried again this morning. I don't know. You read that article this morning? Kuch.
Yeah, I didn't read it. I just I saw some more stuff on Twitter.
The Toucan's not happy. But
I mean, what was did they negotiate a deal before? I mean, if you negotiate a deal, I'm going to take Kuchar's side. I mean, if you
wow, that's a hot take.
If you negotiate a deal, in the range of outcomes of that deal is Kuchar wins the tournament. I mean, that has to be thought about. So if they said, "Hey, I'm going to give you $5,000 for looping for me, and if I win, you're still getting $5,000," I mean,
I don't
I don't
think
know.
that's what happened. I mean, the way the guy described it was that he got a base rate, and then it was if there's, incentive based as Kuchar does some things. Mason gave him some Skechers. We don't know the full story.
I haven't really kept up with it.
Poor effort,
like,
Cooch.
it's like tabloid stuff for me now, so I haven't really kept up too closely on what happened.
Yeah, you're not missing too much. So yeah, after Fleetwood though, I'm with you. I'm certainly not going to go to Ches. Just get that out of here. You've got another tilting range though. You just mentioned Sergio, and then you have the South Africans. I'll take Usti. For me, I guess you want Sergio. He's fresh off destroying a golf course. What do you make of him? He's one of the tougher guys to predict, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, good history here as a fourth or 2 fourths and a 13th. Going back to 2012, I like him. I think 8,200 is a good price. Has some good finishes on the European Tour. Besides where he destroyed the greens and the bunkers and just went on the rampage in Saudi Arabia. But I like him. I mean, I think 8,200, a little bit like Paul Casey, just getting a quality golfer at a really good price. Don't have any issue with Grace or Usti. I don't know. This is a weird week for me because Tiger seems like a good play, even though I never play him.
Bizarro world.
Charles Howell at 7,900. I don't know. That seems like way cheaper than he's been. I don't know. The game hasn't been great lately. I haven't seen him in a couple weeks, but I don't know. That just kind of jumped out to me at 7,900. I feel like he's been more expensive recently. But no, I think I'll be heavy on Sergio. He'd probably be my first guy in this range.
For me, yeah, I think there's a lot of Charles Howell is, he's in the Paul Casey bucket. Then again, these guys are starting to break through and win after like decades of not winning here and there. Usti, it is what it is. I wrote him up in a premium article, which you can find on the site. Quick plug, obviously you should sign up. You can use the promo code JazzRaz, you get 50% off the first month. Ton of stuff behind the paywall from all of us, and then plenty of other sports, of course. But what I was saying in the article this morning with Usti, he's just one of those guys. Recent form is not super important. He kind of just does his thing. He withdraws randomly sometimes, and then other times he's just firing on all cylinders. Having said that, he has been playing really well. It just hasn't been here. So I think for me, I'm willing to take some stabs at flat 8K when I don't think he'll be overly popular, just because people haven't been thinking about Usti too much.
No, I don't think people will be on him this week.
And then Brandon Grace, I don't know what to do with him. I'd rather have Howell, and then I'll get right into the high sevens. RCB last week, I really thought was going to get it fully in the mix. He played very well. He just, every time he got up there, he would double or do something stupid. I don't mind going right back to him this week. I think it sets up well, long irons, keep it, you could be aggressive off the tee. I don't see many red flags for him this week.
Yeah, I like RCB. I like Hatton a little bit. I think 7,700, good price for him. Going down. I go down all the way to Keegan Bradley at 7,300. I just like this. Just seems, he does have two good finishes here. He's got a fourth and a second. Their current form not very good, but just this is like the ultimate ball strikers course, and obviously we know what Keegan does well. So he's a guy, I don't know. I question some of his upside if the putter isn't going to cooperate, but that was something that kind of stuck out for me at 7,300, 80-1 outright odds. I just like the ball striking, really focusing on ball striking this week even more so than other weeks. He was just kind of somebody stuck out for me a little bit at 7,300.
We need to do our daily or weekly, I should say. What are we doing with Cameron Champ? He can use his driver a bunch. Do you have any interest? He's obviously, like I said, he is old news. Matthew Wolff is old news. I don't even know where we're at. Do you have any interest? I'm more interested this week than I usually am. I've been kind of buying on him sporadically. I might have some.
Yeah, because the price is coming down.
Way down, yeah.
7,600 is a good price. This is a good course fit. I guess we didn't really talk at the top too much about course fit, but it is, I think, really big advantage to the long hitters. Big advantage to the long iron players. So this is a course that should definitely suit him and his length. I think the price is coming down. I would rather take shots with him, than play
Kokrak.
Kokrak. Exactly,
That's
because
right.
Kokrak is going to get ownership because he's got good course history. He's got pretty decent form. The stats look good, but he's Kokrak and he sucks.
That's
So
right.
I would never play Kokrak at. I'm not going to say he's going to be highly owned, but he will be owned just because of, if you're looking at stats, you're looking at recent form, course history, it's going to point you in that direction. I'd much rather take shots with Cameron Champ than Jason Kokrak.
Agree 100%. That's what I was going to mention, Champ, just almost as a straight pivot, because I think Kokrak will be popular. His around the green game. It's miserable. I don't know how much that'll come into play, but I just think you can find viable plays. I would take Bud Cauley over Kokrak as well. Couple other guys before, and then we can get to that Keegan range. So Sunjay Im just plays every single week. He never
Does he
takes
know
days
he
off.
doesn't have to play every
Like,
week?
he is just grinding hard. I do worry about maybe some fatigue. He obviously didn't play well last week. Then again, he is a good player, and people are kind of, he peaked 2 weeks ago, yeah, at wherever Ricky won, Waste Management. He was very good there. So I might jump right back on. I was a little tempered last week. You have any feel on him, or is he just kind of indifferent?
Yeah, I mean, I like him. I really liked him at Waste Management. He played well. I wasn't on him last week. I thought the price had kind of come up and he kind of gained a little bit of popularity. And I'd have to look at the numbers. We only have 2 rounds of shot link data from last week, which kind of sucks. The 2 rounds at Pebble, and only 1 round for him because he missed the
Yeah.
cut. But I did see some people tweeting about how awful his short game was, or his around the green and sand game was. So I don't know. Maybe he just had some short game struggles. But I'd go back to him. I mean, I really like him. The ball striking is good, and it's been really consistent. I mean, it's like week in and week out, just gaining strokes off the tee, gaining strokes on approach. And we've already said last week was a weird week. Any week with multiple courses, any week with weather, I'm definitely more prone to throw out what happened last week than in a regular week, and I don't want to make too much out of one miscut anyway. So I've liked him for a few weeks here. I'd definitely be willing to go back to him.
No, well said. The one other guy, and I think he could be sneaky popular. He hasn't been on the mind because he hasn't been playing too well. He missed the cut at Waste Management. It's old favorite Luke List, 7,400. Obviously, as you were just talking about with the course fit, you can be aggressive off the tee here. You have to hit some driver. Spraying, you can always get into trouble, but at the same time, you can work out of the rough. Pretty forgiving. They're smaller greens. We know that, but I guess I see it for him. If he's popular, I don't think I can get over. But at the same time, just looking at him in a vacuum, I definitely get why someone could be interested.
Yeah, 7,400, good price. I don't know. I feel like he's just a guy that we want to play at weaker fields at easier courses. I don't know. This
Yeah.
is not. I don't have Fantasy National pulled up or anything. I'm just.
He's not playing well. That's the scary part. I mean,
Yeah, he's not, and it seems like 7,400, not a bad price, and he's plenty long, obviously, but I just feel like from experience, this has been a spot where I've played him and it just has not
experience.
worked out before. And then he'll go someplace where he's 9K and the winning score is like 2,500 and he'll just smash. So yeah, I could see a few reasons to play him, but I don't think I'll get there. The tough courses. I feel like he's struggled at some of these tougher venues.
No, that's a very fair point. He had his like moment where everyone was like, "Oh, he's about to break through," and then he didn't. And it's like now it almost feels like he's an afterthought. That always interests me when a guy's. But you got to tread carefully. Like he could just never win. Like maybe that was his only chance.
Yeah, very true.
So there is always that. All right, so we got Keegan. God, just to go. So if there's one guy who's killed me so far this year, it's Abraham Answer of all people. I did not play him at all, and then I played him the last couple weeks where he's just been just god awful, but close enough where he should have got through. I'm not going there. I just wanted to mention that he's really been frustrating.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I always said Abraham Answer was terrible at golf, and then he had like this 6-month stretch where he started playing really well, and I'm like, oh, he's good. I'm gonna play him at. I'm gonna play him at. It was Waste Management and one other, and it was just as soon as I hopped on, it was just like the miscuts started happening. So
It's bad.
yeah,
Speaking of just bad, Bo Hostler, just you could have got through last week. You just shot like 80 on Saturday. His tee to green game, he really needs to get it going because he's a world class putter. He just cannot. He's bad. I really don't know.
he's going to finish second one of these weeks. I mean, just
coming.
out of the blue, because that's what he does. Like twice a year, he'll finish second, and no one will see it coming.
It's frustrating because like I want to keep buying, but it's becoming expensive. But I will throw out two guys. One is definitely not going to be popular. The other, I want to get your thoughts on. First one is Aaron Wise, who I think just talk about a price drop. I know he's playing bad, but my God, I think he's just a little underpriced. Then the dark horse is JT Poston, who he's an incredible putter as well. But his best club, he's a good driver of the ball. He hasn't been recently, but I think he could be fine here. You have any interest in either of those dudes? Specifically Aaron Wise. I think he's going to be a popular play this week.
I definitely would have more interest in Wise than Poston. I don't know about Poston. You know, he's just like
he's a weird anomaly guy. I don't know if I'm the only person.
He plays pretty decent, but he never seems to contend. I mean, not at 7,100. You don't really need that out of him, but I don't know. He just seems to. It's hard for me to figure out, you know, what to do with him. A little interest in Wise, obviously. Of course, should set up well for him. Hasn't been playing too good, but 7,200 is decent. I'll throw Mullinex out there. He's been playing really well.
Don't play him. He withdrew. It's over. Trey's gone.
He's not playing?
He withdrew. He pulled out, yeah. Sad.
Well, never mind then.
I would have played him. I know where you're going. He's playing well and it course fits, but now he's got the big WD hit him.
All right, well, never mind then. Don't play Trey Mullinex because you will not get any points if you play him.
No, it'll be uphill, tough sledding.
Your boy Joaquin Niemann, you wanna go back there?
He's in the Aaron Wise bucket of like, God, remember? I'm old enough to remember when he was popular. Like, I think it should be okay. So one of the things, and this is important, obviously we talk about course fit, is for me analyzing how big scrambling will be and then how difficult. Because those are two different things. Like even if it's small greens, if it's very basic up and downs, guys like Neiman, that's fine. If it's tough and you can separate yourself by being really creative around the greens, well, that could be a real issue because I don't trust any of that, especially his irons have been bad. His putting has been atrocious. He's just a little off right now. Having said that, he's a really good driver of the ball. And we saw early when he was on tour, his irons, you remember at the beginning there when he didn't have like enough registered rounds, but it was like breaking the stat models.
Yeah, he got off to the hot start, and I think people got enamored, and myself included, with this, the stats that he was posting in kind of limited action. But yeah, I mean, around the green, it's going to be important. The harder any course plays, the more around the green, comes in. I mean,
of course,
they're going to be missing fairways, which means they're going to be missing greens, and tougher courses, you're going to be missing more greens. I don't like to, unless I think the weather's going to be awful and the winning score is going to be like 4 under par. I don't really like to put too much emphasis on around the green game, but I'll definitely take some guys out who are just god awful around the green. I mean, Neiman would kind of fall into that category.
So
it's
bad.
just, I mean, if you're playing him, you're just kind of playing him on a, he's going to be low owned. We've seen what he can do, and we're just going to take some shots. I don't think there's no reason for him to be really like a core play or anybody that you're,
I agree,
jamming in a massive percentage of, but definitely some reasons to play him.
No, he is one of those guys that the upside's going to be there, but it's a lot of risk. And if it's bad conditions, he could just, he scores. That's the other thing. obviously what we're after, especially if you get 72 holes. We were talking about Harkins very briefly at the beginning. That guy scored like a maniac last week. And Neiman does do that sometimes where he just has not the best placement point showing, but at this price, if he scores the 20th most DraftKings points, you're going to be just fine.
Can he score the 20th most DraftKings
In
points
2
while
rounds.
playing 2 rounds?
That's the Ollie. That you can ask when Ollie had like 20 birdies, 3 quads. God, I don't know. Like, Streelman, he played pretty well last week, not going there. Henley was just, what
Don't
a
even.
disappointment.
That just crushed me last week.
Yeah. Him and Bo Hostler going down Saturday was not that I had much going, but that didn't help. And then this is a guy I never get right. So I'll just ask you, any interest in Harold Varner? He's got
yeah, I do have a
good.
little bit of interest with him. He's been playing pretty well. He's another guy who I don't know if, the tougher conditions aren't really ideal for him. But, it seems like we've seen, if we go back to the fall series, kind of prolonged pretty decent form out of him and definitely plenty long. So, yeah, I actually do like Varner at 7K. I don't know if I'd play a ton of him. I'm a little concerned about really strong fields, really tough courses with him. That's kind of something I'm focusing on this week, is trying to pick guys, almost treat it like a major. I think there's not going to be a lot of, not that Harold Varner can't finish in the top 10, top 20, but there's just, I think when you look at the leaderboard on Sunday night, it's going to be, the best and the best players in the world up there. There's not going to be a lot of surprises, I don't think. So yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of interest in Varner. I don't know, CT Pan kind of interests me at 6,800. It's a bad course fit for him. And the form has not been there, but I just feel like, a little bit like Neiman, although definitely a very different style of player from Neiman, but just like, if you rewind it a month and a half or a couple months ago, this is a guy who was playing very well and was very expensive. Now we're seeing him super cheap and will probably be unowned. So yeah, it really wouldn't surprise me to see him play well, even though I kind of question if he has enough length to sort of contend here, but I just thought 6,800 was a good price. Harkins, as you said,
that guy.
The guy was just a maniac last week. I think what did he have, a quad or a triple or a quad? He made
quad.
an 8.
Yeah.
And still finished T28. I mean, and just was just a scoring machine. And I think, people were talking about that on Twitter even before Pebble. I think it was Josh Culp, where it was like the guy was making an insane amount of birdies, and then it was just like perfect foreshadowing because he goes to Pebble, and then
I saw that tweet,
smashes, just making birdies all over the place. So yeah, I would definitely. He had a great. And again, I haven't looked at the ball striking from Pebble because we only have 2 rounds, but he had a really good ball striking event the week before that, and kind of came into Pebble. Hitting it pretty well, and like we said, the birdies were there. So yeah, I would go there. Kind of going down from there, there are some guys down here that I think you can play. I don't know, Kyle Stanley.
Oh, here we go.
This goes right into the fact of kind of playing the cream will rise to the top. Not playing well, but damn, 6,600. Is just so cheap for this guy, and it almost kind of reminds me of Adam Scott at Torrey, where he was like 75, and it was just like, and then boom, we played amazing. I don't know. We were coming off 2 missed cuts from Stanley, but I mean, he's the class of this like lower range. Yeah. I mean, no question about it. Way better, much better golfer than anybody that's down here. I'm definitely going to take some shots with him for sure.
So he's one of the most polarizing guys on the entire slate. I'll go right up before I jump into Stanley. CT Pan and JJ Spawn were 2 guys I looked at, and I saw what you're saying. I worry about the length. Pan's irons are just a little off, to say the least, right now. I may, I like to correlate some teams. If I have some teams that are maybe not all bombers or some, lesser hitters, Brian Gay, I'll throw in there. I may look at those guys. I don't think I'm going to have a ton, though. But you just brought up Kyle Stanley. So I think. What do you think he'd be priced at if he just had two decent middling results in the last two? I was thinking like mid sevens.
Yeah, I think if he just made the cut in his last two events when like T40'd, I
Yeah,
think he'd be at least 7,500. You
and
know.
I mean the question I have is he was so bad that I wondered if he's hurt. He was another one he pulled out of Pebble, but everybody did that. So it's like maybe he was one of the 25 guys that didn't want to play with Larry the Cable Guy, or maybe he's hurt. I assume he wouldn't be teeing it up here. If he's okay though, I'm with you. You know, we've seen him. I did comp this a little to Firestone. He's handled that. He's notoriously good in some tougher fields, even though he's not the best. You know, he's not that top tier golfer. And he's obviously your last man in on 99% of your lineups. So I'm with you, but it's just so hard to tilt Kyle Stanley. Like it could be over immediately.
It is. Well, here, so I'll throw this out. So you have Scott Langley at 6,600. Okay. Not a good golfer,
No, I don't know who that is.
but he was sixth last week and then
Get
a
him
missed
out of
cut,
here.
then 12th and 43rd. So, but at this event, I'm like way more likely to play Kyle Stanley in this really, really strong field, really tough course, over Scott Langley, who is the same price and has, for 6,600, really good form, but he has like no pedigree, no long-term form. But I think people will go to a guy like Langley because they'll see the 6th last week, they'll see the 12th. Not that he'll be highly owned, but for me, it's like I'll just scratch Langley right off, and I would
Yeah, that's
play
not a.
Stanley 100 times out of 100 over a guy like Scott Langley. And I mean, there's a ton of guys down here like that. I mean, if you're
Lahiri's down here. So a couple things. First, appreciate Chris Brown in the chat. Yeah, if you could give us a like, we really do appreciate that. Love you guys for watching the show. We did have a question. We'll talk about Affy Barnrat. He's a guy I wanted to bring up anyway. But just to wrap up the Kyle Stanley talk, I'm with you. It's just the other thing that when this is, obviously why one of the many features of the site. Do you think he's going to be popular? Because we're not the only people who obviously identify that this is a misprice, even with the bad form.
I think he'll be somewhat popular
relative to the yeah.
Relative to, I mean, I don't think he'll be. You think he'll be double digits?
I was thinking like maybe around 10-ish%.
I was going to say 8% because people are going to be really scared off of the 2 missed cuts, and especially if you look at the stats. Obviously, you should be scared. We should definitely. There's cause for concern, for sure. But I mean, I like him. I'll just throw a couple other guys.
Yeah, get to the sickos. This is what the people pay for, is the egregious golfers.
But this is such a good field, as you can get a couple guys down here that aren't totally egregious. Johnny Vegas is one.
Okay.
For me, 6,500. He's 150 to 1. He's got a 15th and a 12th here. He's coming off a T10. I mean, Vegas isn't a guy that I love, but I mean, down here, you're approaching min price. So this is kind of like your punt range. I think he's definitely worth it. Keith Mitchell. I don't know about the Poe. I don't know about the strong field, tough course, but he's got the distance. He's a phenomenal driver of the ball. One of the best on tour, gaining almost a stroke around off the tee and on approach. So, good ball striker. I think the course should fit well. Good score. 6,400 I think is a good price. He's kind of cooled off a little bit. And then Adam Shank, 6,400. He's that guy. He was striking the ball very well too. I didn't look and see how he struck it over the 2 rounds at Pebble, but coming into Pebble, he was striking it really well. Not really no high finishes, but he's making cuts, and I think the ball striking is there for 6,400.
He had again only 2 rounds, hot putter, good, decent irons. Off the tee wasn't great, but we're talking about guys towards the bottom here. So we did have a question about, it was some of the guys we talked about, and then Affy Barnrat with Stanley, Neiman, H3. I don't put him in that range. I'd prefer those type of guys. Are you going to our favorite Thai golfer, or is that just not for you this week?
Yeah, no, I never really play a lot of Afterburner. I'm not sure why. I feel like he's got this cult following where there are people that will just play him regardless because he's cool. You know, he
He
smokes
is
a bunch
cool.
of cigarettes and drives Lamborghinis and stuff. Seems like be a fun guy to hang out with. But yeah, no,
I don't.
I never really go there with him. So
He's good
I
on the
think I
par
pass.
fives, which that's important here. But at the same time, I worry about him, especially if this is tough. If this is a tough course, there's a lot of guys that I think, that people are accustomed to playing that we don't see that too often, and it's a different animal. It's very, very tricky. You got a taste of that on Saturday. I know that was more weather based, obviously, with Pebble, but that different skill set to grind through. Having said that, I have one super egregious guy that we have not mentioned.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's Grayson, 6,100. He's got the length, he's got the, all that. It's bad form still. He's showing a little more life. Uh, his round that we saw from last week was very bad at Pebble, but I still think, with his long term pedigree off the tee, you could go there if you wanted to say take a team. And this, we've talked about this before. If you say, you know what, I think that DJ is going to win and JT's coming in second, like, okay, well, there's only limited ways to do that and make it work. You may have to jam someone down there. I wouldn't mind doing that if you're making, 100 lineups or so. I may have a couple stabs of someone like Grayson. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's going to be sub 1%.
yeah,
I
no
mean,
one's playing him.
yeah. So nobody's playing him. You know that in the driving of the ball being his strength is important this week, and I mean that actually mitigates some of the. I've talked about this before with guys like Rom and Day. If you're driving the ball in a better position than everyone else, the irons don't have to be as good.
It's true.
Him
That's
hitting, yeah, him hitting an iron from 165 in the fairway is a lot better. He can hit a below average iron shot and still be in a better position, have a better birdie putt than somebody who's hitting it from 190 in the rough. So, and if it's rain, I don't know. I'd have to double check the weather, but I mean, if this course is going to be wet, it's going to play super long.
that they're
I
saying
think in that.
100% chance of rain. I believe it's Friday. One of
Well,
the
there you
days
go.
it's going to rain, they said.
Yeah,
Um,
and if it's going to rain, the course is going to play super long. That's going to put a more of an emphasis on hitting the ball in the fairway. You definitely don't want to be playing out of thick rough here. I'm assuming if it's raining, they'll be playing lift clean in place,
you would
which gives
think.
an advantage to guys in the fairway. So yeah, but I mean, I can see the point for Grayson, but it's not going to take much to get over the field on him because he'll
That's
be
the
a
thing.
0.5% owned probably.
Yeah, you don't need, and that's obviously a much broader topic, which that's what Slack is for and things like that. You don't need to say, oh, I want to play Grayson. I'm going to play 50%. Don't do that. You'll be fine with 5% Grayson if you want to take the stab. Uh, and yeah, I mean, this is a week, and all this stuff will be discussed tomorrow night. Me and Jason Roslin will be breaking down weather and whatnot. I'm gonna make a couple tea time stacks probably. It just with the weather, there's a chance that there is a split. We see that obviously last week it was you wanted guys starting at a certain place, but this week I may try to group them and say if they get out and then there's a delay or something like that, you could steal a couple of strokes in those first two rounds.
Yeah, for sure.
It's I don't know. We'll see. I'm not a huge. I think people
It
they
I'm just looking forward to playing one course, It's
yeah. Oh no, this is nice. Shot tracker and one course is just a step in the right direction.
this
Um,
having to figure out like multiple course rotations and weather splits and stuff is exhausting for
yeah.
me to be honest.
And trying to tilt like when you have to tilt the shot tracker that isn't shot tracker where it just tells you what's going on. So it's just like shot to from other, and then you don't even know what that means. And then he's on the green, and it's like, well, this is extremely tilting.
Shot to from the Pacific
Yeah,
Ocean.
yeah, that's the speak.
Like
Um, I, other than that, though, I mean, I know you mentioned you bet Hideki, or did I hear that wrong?
yeah, I bet him at 28 to 1. I really like that bet. It just seems like he's kind of coming all the way back. The ball striking numbers definitely back that up. And when he's been at his best is, right up there. I'm not going to say it's up there with DJ and those other, but I mean, it's close. I mean, his best is a lot better to me than 28-1 would indicate. And when you look at the ball striking numbers from Torrey Pines and the ball striking numbers from Waste Management, I mean, it tells me that he's right there. So I think 28-1 is a very good price on him. And especially, this field is not, I'm not taking a lot of shots with 200-1, 300-1 guys. I just don't think that. Yeah, I don't think, as much as I love a 200-1 losing bet, I just don't see it happening this week. You'd also mention him. I don't think he can win, but I think he might be a decent, like a top 10 bet here.
Okay.
I got him around 80-1 outright. I did not bet him, but that's his outright odds. But I could definitely see him just, the ball striking has been that good. I can see him kind of coming back after a off week at Pebble. Not to win, but I wouldn't mind him as like a top 10 bet. But that's about all I got so far.
I haven't done a ton, and again, we'll be breaking some of that down tomorrow night. Where this is just a random question, but the guy I was excited to play was Thomas Peters, and he's just not here.
No, he's gonna win the.
I saw he's
not the. I want to call it the Belgian knockout, but that's the Perth Super Sick. I don't.
Yeah,
know.
whatever one of those like crazy format tournaments.
Yeah, where they play like stroke play, and then they have like a beanbag toss, and then they play like a match play.
Your Olympics, yeah, good times.
Yeah, like the gambling Olympics.
Yeah, why not, Tommy P? But the one last thing I'll say, and this is more certainly a macro concept. And this is a forward-thinking thing. If you I saw a tweet on this, someone for Augusta, and you think they're going to play well this week, you might want to try to lock that bet in, because this tournament with this strong field, whoever wins this, their Masters odds are about to plummet. So someone like Hideki, who I kind of like for Augusta, I certainly lock that in before he goes out and blows the field away this week. That's not going to do much for your price.
Well, in this event, and I don't know, I don't really see it with the courses, but this event has a very strange correlation with
it. Does.
I don't know if it's this. I think a couple times it's been the same year, where like Bubba won both events, and I don't know exactly what it was, but I mean, you look at like Bubba, Phil. There's been quite a few guys who have won this event or something, and then gone on to win the Masters or have won both events in their career. I don't really see it with the courses.
I don't either
that much, as far as besides needing length off the tee. But Augusta has very wide fairways, bent grass greens. This has narrow fairways, Poe greens, but whatever. It seems that these two events seem to line up for whatever reason.
It's true. I have seen that. I'm not sure why either, but we'll see. Obviously, like I said, this is a very strong field, and you're going to see the cream kind of rise to the crop in this one, unlike some of the Adam Long-esque type performances. But any final thoughts before we get on out of here with a good one here? You're playing Freddie Couples, who's been here for about 50 years in a row?
No, not playing Freddie Couples, not playing Kenny Perry. I don't know why.
Stricker did us a favor. He went to the senior tour this week.
Who did? Stricker?
Stricker, after just every time I play that guy, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, he's terrible. He finally realized, I cannot compete with these guys anymore. I'm just going to go make a bunch of money on the Champions Tour. No. Just like you said, I'm really just focusing on the long-term form, pedigree over, the short-term form. I'd rather take a guy with like a Kyle Stanley that's come off a couple missed cuts, who's just a better golfer, rather than some no-name guy who has strung together 2 top 30s out of the blue and is going to get toasted on this course.
I agree. When you have a weaker field in terms of the top tier, you can say there have been times where it's like, okay, the third priced guy is someone who's in the 7s in this type of event. Here, it's just quality up and down the 8s, 9s, and obviously the double digit guys. It's a minefield up there in terms of, you don't want to be just Xing a ton of them out. Even me, I like to take just full fades on a lot of people. I do less of that in a stronger field, just because on any given week, these guys are all super talented. It's not like they're overmatched. So you're going to have to make a stand somewhere. You can't just take everyone. That's not how it works, unfortunately. And we'll see. Tee times, weather, those will probably create the edges that will determine where I make some leverage spots. Because on face value, it's hard to sort through, the top golfers in the world and say, oh, this guy is in a better spot this week.
Yeah, for sure. And especially nowadays, it seems like they all have similar. It's not like it'd be nice if a couple of the elite golfers, like Spieth, were maybe shorter off the tee, better scramblers. Where it was like, okay, well, this guy does good, but they're all awesome off the tee. They're all bombers. They're all scorers. It's not like we can't like. They all have very similar games, which makes it really difficult at a course like this because they all fit the course well. It'd be nice if one of them hit it 260 and was like Furyk or like a prime Furyk or something.
Super iron.
Yeah, like short and accurate, great iron player, and amazing short game. Like I wish there was a 10K guy like that because it would make life a lot simpler.
It's true. No, it is like even for me being a Rory guy, like his skill set is being duplicated by a lot of people off the tee. Like obviously I still put Rory up there against anyone off the tee, but there's so many other guys that can approach that now. It's not as big of a separator and it makes it tough, especially when you can't putt, but that's neither here nor there. All right, well, we'll get on out of here. I got a blizzard going on outside the window anyway. Glad we made it through. It's an accomplishment anytime we even do a show. So like I said, hit us with a like on the way out. Tomorrow night, you can see me, Jason Roslin. We'll be going through it all. But this is going to be a good week of golf. Obviously, this is where the season really gets underway. So good luck, everyone. Special happy birthday to Josh behind the glass. Thanks for producing on the B-Day. And we'll see you guys next week. Good luck.